everybody, I'm Stacey J.
And I'm Chuck Duran.
Welcome to another awesome episode of VO Buzz Weekly.
And speaking of awesome, you look freaking awesome. How are you doing? Every time we do a show, I got to get a new outfit because this is like...
oh, thank you.
You are out of control,
listen,
girl.
I have to sit next to you, fancy pants.
Well, I know that that's a pretty hard task, but you're doing a mighty well job there.
Thank you.
Man, we have an insane show for you guys. We have Townsend Coleman on the show.
Yes.
Promos, animation, the whole shebang. He's got a great story. You guys are going to love him.
Yes.
Coolest guy on the planet.
All over the place.
Yes. And we have some new things going on here with VO Buzz Weekly. You want to tell them a little bit about it?
Well, you know, we've been gone a couple weeks. Not vacationing.
Nope.
No. But we have been upgrading and making some changes. As you notice, we are live on YouTube. All you have to do is click subscribe. There is no more logging in. You can watch us on the website or on YouTube. All the promos, all the previews, all the episodes.
Absolutely.
In their entirety. So please, subscribe to the channel, make some comments, and share it.
Absolutely.
Share it.
And we also have our VO Buzz Weekly app. So some people have been asking, hey man, how can I watch you guys on the go? Now you have no excuse. You got the app, you got YouTube, you got our website, and like Stacey said, comment, man. Let us know if you have any questions that you want us to ask for you, okay? Because that's how this whole thing's going to work now. It's going to be great.
And speaking of questions, we're going to ask them to Townsend right now. Come with us. You guys have been hearing our guest for decades. He is known as the voice of the Tick, Michelangelo in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Corporal Capeman in Inspector Gadget, and Jason Whittaker in the radio drama Adventures in Odyssey. You also know him as the voice of NBC Comedies, ABC Family, The Hub, ABC Comedies. I am exhausted. Seriously.
And so am I.
I know. And we haven't even scratched the surface. So, we are so beyond thrilled to get buzzed with the wonderful and amazing Annie-nominated actor, Townsend Coleman.
Ta-da! A little bow. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Ow, that hurt.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Threw his back out. We'll be back right after these messages. No, we're kidding. There are no messages. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
So good to have you, man.
We have been wanting to have you. It's finally worked out, so thank you so much. You're a very busy man.
Thanks for having me over to play.
Very cool. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Townsend's not even wearing shoes.
I know. I'm jealous.
See? Because that's why he has so much money. He doesn't buy regular things that everybody has.
Right,
you know what I mean?
It's I can't afford shoes.
He's like,
need no stinking shoes.
Why do I need shoes, right? Why do I rather have $1 million or shoes? I'll take the $1 million. Dude, it's so good to see you, man.
I'm getting ready to take mine off, too.
We've been telling them a little bit earlier in our little intro that we did how cool you are because, man, when Stacey and I first met you, that was one of the things that we took out of actually meeting you and getting to spend some time with you. Is like, we said, wow, what a cool freaking dude.
Big heart.
Oh, look at you.
What a big
Just a really, really sweet, genuinely good-hearted, awesome, very talented individual, I must say.
Yeah.
You can give me $20 later.
Well, I was going to say I brought cash.
So we don't want to pay the service
exactly,
charge on
but
the
you know what? I want to get right into this thing because you have a very, very interesting background, even how you got into the business. But you started out in college majoring as an architect, right?
Yeah, actually, I went to University of Colorado in Boulder to build houses and
Hold on.
Design buildings and such. Yeah.
Okay, so but then hold on, you get nominated for an Annie for voiceover. How does that happen? How do you go from building homes or going to college to building homes to being in this freaking crazy business?
Okay, well, there's quite a bit that happens.
There's a little bit in between, and that's what we want to know about.
Tell us every single thing that happened.
Every detail
Townsend.
from that moment to that moment. Yeah.
Every moment.
Yeah, no, I grew up with a mom and dad who had actually met working at NBC at 30 Rock in New York in the early 50s. And so I was born in New York. My dad worked in the guest relations department. He ran the whole page department. But his goal was he wanted to be on the air as a network announcer. Never happened for him, and he ended up moving us to Denver when I was a year old in the mid-50s. And so I grew up, sort of with a dad who was frustrated. He got on the radio in Denver. And so I grew up, in this environment with somebody who was really into radio and radio drama and voices and such. So, cut to when I was a teenager, got into theater, real involved in that. But in high school, was also very much into. I went to a private boys prep school, and was a terrible student. But I was always into the arts, into theater, into music, drawing, painting, sculpting, all that stuff, drafting. And so I really wanted to go out to California. We were living in Cleveland, Ohio at the time, which is where I grew up. And I really wanted to go to Cal Arts out here in LA. And my mom wouldn't go for it. She said, if I'm going to pay for your college, you're going to go study something you can get a job in. And I thought, well, all right. So I applied to University of Colorado, which is where my dad went, and got into their architecture department and started off trying to be an architect. And within
How long did it last?
About 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, by the end of my first semester,
You
I realized that this was just not for me, you know. But I got involved in the theater department, and my second semester of my freshman year was cast in the lead of the university production there, and I was sort of off and running at that point.
Yeah.
Just absolutely loved it. And so that, and at the same time, I was also dabbling in the radio and TV department, and went down to Denver, got my 3rd class FCC license so that I could maybe someday get into
Right
radio.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sure enough, after I only spent 2 years in college, but when I quit school in '74, went home, got married, young, yeah, and a year later,
A child bride, a child groom.
yeah, gosh, it's like I robbed my own cradle. It's like, what are you thinking, you? But and a year later, in '75, I just a chance thing. My wife's brother-in-law was working at a radio station where he was at the time, unfortunately, getting let go from, but said that they're changing formats and they're going to be hiring inexperienced people cheap. You should go down and talk to this guy. I thought, yeah, that's cool.
You're like, I'm inexperienced
And
I'm
cheap.
cheap.
Yeah, and I'm cheap. so that's how I broke into radio. I went down, interviewed with this guy, and he said, you know, it was a beautiful music station. Didn't require, you know, much of anything to be on the air. Although I did get the job, but after 6 months was fired.
Oh boy.
So apparently I didn't even have enough to do that, but it got me in the door.
But then you went on to disco. You're more disco than elevator music,
And that-
Townsend.
Thank you.
Come on now.
It's just my look, isn't it?
It is.
Something in the way
You
I
don't
walk.
do
Yeah,
You
so-
belong
there
in
you go.
disco.
So in '76, I found myself at a disco station in Cleveland and for another year and a half, and that really kind of got me off and running in radio.
Yeah.
And voiceover,
Yeah.
because that's when I made my first demo, and my first voiceover demo.
Yeah.
And started freelancing in Cleveland.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful, man.
And I remember you telling us, I mean, but what was that moment? Did you remember that moment when you said, I need to go, I need to move the family to a bigger pond, when you made the decision to come to LA?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, you know.
Well, because let me just add, there's a lot of people watching that have that, oh, I'd really love to try it, I'd really love to try it. And even though, you know, it's a different year, it's still the same thing. It's a universal thing. So what was it in you that said, we got to do it?
You're right. It never changes in us. And, you know, we all come to that point where we either do or we don't, you know, and make that choice and actually step out. And yeah, it was exactly 30 years ago in the summer of '84 that I had been on the radio for almost 10 years in Cleveland. Finally just got tired enough of it that I, you know, got up the cojones to walk in and give my 2-week notice. And I was so relieved when I did that. And I was just planning on staying in the Cleveland area and doing freelance voiceover work and I had just turned 30. So I had just turned 30. I just quit this radio career. I was just going to freelance in the area, and about 2 weeks later got a notice from our landlord. We had been renting this house that he was selling the house, and we had to make this physical move. And I thought, you know, I've done everything in this town that I feel like I have wanted to do within the entertainment business. I was modeling, I was doing TV work, I was doing voiceover work, I was doing theater, and I thought, if I don't get out now, I probably never will. And so it was like this perfect storm, this confluence of events that happened at just the right time. And it was that house being sold that kind of kicked me out of the nest, you know, gave me that impetus. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go for it. And there were a couple of people back in Cleveland that encouraged me to come out here and take a look around. And so I came out here I mean, literally exactly 30 years ago, and right after the Olympics, looked around, found a little place at the end of toward the end of August, and
he remembers every minute of it.
well, well, let me tell you.
It's all your good,
because
clean living, Townsend. You have good brain cells.
Well, let me tell you, only because it was exactly 30 years ago today
Wow.
that we were driving, or we'd come out here just to look for a place, and we stumbled across a little house that was for sale in Glendale, and we talked them into renting it to us. And so they did, and literally 2 weeks later, we were living here. I mean, it happened that fast.
Wow.
Made the decision.
No
went
time for
home.
regret.
What's that?
No time for regret.
Right, no time to chicken
It's like
out.
on adrenaline.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so it was that I, you know, I just, you know, people would say, well, who do you know out there? I really didn't know anybody but one person. And, you know, well, it's expensive. What are you going to do? And I said, you know what? I don't know. If I have to get a job waiting tables or selling cars or something, I'll do that. But if I don't do this now, I know I'll kick myself for not doing it.
Yeah.
So,
That's pretty cool, man. I love the fact that you remember every little event of it, and for that to have happened exactly 30 years today. That's pretty neat, right?
Yeah.
it's crazy.
freaky.
It is freaky to look at, you know, your life in chunks of time like that.
Yeah.
Sort of look at the first 30 years.
Yeah.
And then the last 30, the past 30 years,
Yeah.
I should say. Hopefully not the last 30.
No, not the last, the past.
Yeah, but it's great.
So how long before you moved to LA and you actually started working in voiceover, which is why you came out here, right?
I actually didn't come out here for voiceover. I came out to act, you know.
Oh, to act, okay.
Yeah,
to
to
TV
do
and movies and stuff.
Look
But I
at
knew
that
I could-
face.
I know.
He belongs on camera.
That's a good
He's
one. I can act.
Curious George needed us.
needed a body double.
Yeah.
yeah. No, I came out here to do, you know, movies and TV and stuff.
Okay.
And but because I'd done so much voiceover back in Ohio, I thought, well, I can, you know, maybe make a little dough doing that on the side to try and make ends meet while I'm trying to get this theatrical career off the ground.
Yeah.
So and so I got an agent, I got a voice agent and a commercial agent like my first week in town. Really, really lucky. The one person that literally the one person that I knew out here. She hooked me up with her agent, which at the time was Special Artists, and her husband at the time hooked me up with his agent, which was SBV. So I went over and I interviewed at both these places and ended up signing with Jeff Danis and Doug Ely and Marsha Hurwitz over at Special Artists, like my first week in town. And I'm still with Jeff.
I was just saying, you went to ICM and you're now at DPN.
Yeah. And so I got really, really lucky. You know, I had a really good demo tape at the time. And, you know, so I knew that it probably wouldn't be too hard getting somebody to get that noticed. And so it was about 6 months later that I actually kind of started booking stuff. And in March of '85, within 10 days, I got my first on-camera national TV commercial, my first little part in a movie with Tommy Lee Jones. And when I say little part, I mean like dinky, you know, part. But and then my first cartoon series, which was Inspector Gadget, which is something I never gave any thought to doing prior to that. But I just, you know, my agent got me this audition for it, and I thought
Corporal Capeman.
That sounds fun, and it was Corporal Capeman.
What a great character.
Yeah.
Wow.
Such a good character.
So
I'll help you inspect the gadget.
So you'd never done animation until that point?
No, never thought about doing it. I mean, when I was on the radio, you know, over the years, I'd done some morning shows and had done some characters and stuff like that. But, you know, I wasn't one of these kids who grew up, you know, thinking, that's what I want to do. I'm gonna go be a cartoon voice.
You
know.
And there's a lot of people out there that are exactly like that.
Yeah. Well, let's go forward a little bit. Okay, so you have. I mean, I love your credits. I love your credits.
I love your credits, man. You got good credits, dude.
You got good credits, man. Yeah, but you've got The Tick, you have Teen Wolf, you have all these great credits. So in August of '93, you're working steadily in animation. Let's talk about, you become the promo voice for NBC must-see comedies, right? Must-see TV. You keep that voice, that gig for 16 years. Congratulations. Can you go back to that time when you were, here you are, a working animation actor, and I love the story of how you got it, first of all, but you had to make a choice, yeah? between doing animation and promo? Didn't it get to that point?
No, it didn't. I mean, I was working a lot in commercials, so I was doing on-camera commercials, and I had some really good VO clients for commercial stuff, and was doing a lot of animation at the time. And just, again, it was one of these fluke things. I happened to be standing in Jeff's office the day he got a call from a guy over at NBC explaining what he was looking for, and Jeff said, well, I happen to have a client who's standing in my office right here who sounds a lot like what you're describing. Can I put him on the phone with you? And I'm hearing Jeff's end of this, and he hands me the phone.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, he says, just do it. So I, say hello, and the guy says, yeah, can you do such and such in the style of such and such? And I said, well, yeah. And so I did it, and he said, wow, that sounds great. Can you come over here and try it on a promo? I said, sure, when? He said, like, right now? I said, okay. So I drove over from ICM over to Burbank, and they had a drive on for me. I went down to in the basement to the studio, and it was like just so bizarre to me because it was so out of the blue. And again, promos were something that I didn't give any thought to doing because I never, I don't have that kind of voice. This is back in the days when, Don LaFontaine and Chuck Riley and
was Danny Dark the NBC voice at the time?
He was the voice of NBC for, at that time, like 11 or 12 years. And see, he was a huge hero of mine. I mean, he was like my idol. And I had met him once years earlier when I was doing a Keebler Elf on a spot. And he walked in. Yeah, he walked in, and he was the announcer at the end of these spots. And I thought, God, wouldn't it be cool to meet him? And sure enough, he walks in, and I was like,
You're like, hi, I'm an elf, Townsend.
No, yeah, I'm the elf that you never mind. And so I was a huge fan of his. And so when I walked into that studio in the basement at NBC, I was kind of, it was like weird because I was kind of nervous, but not because it was like radio with pictures to me.
Yeah.
And so I sat down in Danny's chair at Danny's mic with Danny's headphones, and they told me what they were looking for, and so I just did it. And, we sort of massaged it a little bit, played with it a little bit, and they ended up putting the promo on the air that night, and it was the promo that was launching this new campaign they were starting called Must See TV. It was August of '93. Yeah.
And that was like in the heyday of Seinfeld, and I mean that was
Blossom.
Blossom.
Yeah. Now
you started wearing hats then.
Did they tell you how much they were going to pay you before you went for this little audition?
No.
Chuck likes to get into people's W-2 forms.
But when you found out, were you happy?
It wasn't like they brought in a satchel.
He was happy. He was a happy
They're like,
boy.
bring a duffel bag and we'll fill it with cash. 16
Oh my gosh,
years.
dude.
Yeah, I got really lucky.
I mean, that's just, you actually went to the lot to record, so 16 years of going there.
Into NBC down in the basement.
How many times a day? Was it top of the day and
back
end
in
of
the
the
early
night,
days
or what?
before ISDN and I could start doing stuff from my house, I was going in a couple of times a day and every night because about 3 months later after I started there in August of '93, they threw the Tonight Show promos my way.
Yes.
And that again was one of these, oh, by the way, it was on Halloween weekend. They called me on a Friday night at home and said, oh, would you do this? Because we'd like to use you for these promos. I'm like, sure, when? They start Monday. And so the Monday, beginning of November sweeps of '93, I went and did my first Tonight Show promo. And that was only supposed to last 5 weeks, just for the sweeps. And at the end of sweeps, they just never told us to stop. And so I ended up doing that for 16 years. Yeah, I mean the whole time I was there. So so I would go in a couple of times during the day, and then every night about 6:30 for the Tonight Show stuff. And so,
wow,
it was one of those. Don't even ask. I don't know how that like landed in my lap, but they were the best people, and I had the most fun doing those spots because again it really was a lot like radio.
Yeah,
just having to you got this internal clock, having to use your timing. But I think they liked the fact that I had this animation background too and could bring that sort of life to some of these promos because they started writing them in a little bigger and broader and goofier and could start doing characters on them. So
that's awesome.
I just want to close your story here by saying that the reason why you got these jobs, some people might be thinking like, oh wow, he just got lucky.
No.
And maybe luck had a big part and you getting these amazing gigs, but it was your talent that got you the job. You know what I mean?
That kept
Luck
the
got
job.
you
16
the
years is a
audition and the
long
opportunity,
time.
but your talent actually physically got you the job. So let's not forget that. Got to have the talent.
Yeah, I mean, it was serendipitous for sure
Yes.
for me to, you know, sort of luck into these things.
Right.
But yeah, if you don't have the goods in some sense to be able to hang on to it, you're not going to hang on to it for that long.
Yeah,
Right.
You know?
exactly.
So,
Well, speaking of goods,
goods?
you are the original voice of Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Or Michelangelo for those.
No, Michelangelo, do that.
For
Come
those
on.
artsy people. And that's almost 30 years ago. What is it, 26? Almost 30 years?
Yeah, about 26 years ago now. Yeah.
So it was you, Rob Paulson, Cam Clark, Barry Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
You guys were the original Turtles. Right on. Okay, so 25 plus years, and it's still so loved and still going strong. And
That's what's so crazy.
Isn't it
This is
amazing?
a franchise that, you know, not only wouldn't die, doesn't want to die, wants to go on forever,
Yeah.
and probably will.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
insane.
Absolutely.
You know, I love this new show that Nick is doing now that Rob's on, which I think is just the coolest
Yeah,
thing.
he's making his way through all the Turtles.
Yeah. Yes, like in another 25
Yeah.
years, he'll end up as, you know, Leonardo.
Yeah.
And if he
Exactly.
at 100,
He'll start
then I
looping.
suppose he's-
He'll just go back and do them again.
He's recycling the whole franchise all by himself,
Yeah.
and well deserved.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
But yeah, it's crazy that it's so, you know, alive right now.
Well, and you are doing more cons. You're meeting your fans. You're meeting people from all different generations
Absolutely.
who love the Turtles. So what do you have coming up that people could maybe come and meet you and get something signed?
Yeah, well, because it's the 30th anniversary of the Turtles comic, started in '84. And it's also the 30th anniversary of the Transformers, which is something I was on Generation 1 and Transformers Animated.
Right.
So you know, I was just at a big Transformers con in England, and coming up at the end of September, I got two, one in Portland on the 20th and 21st at Rose City Comic Con.
Nice.
And then Alamo City Comic-Con, I guess, but in San Antonio,
Yeah.
the following weekend at the end
Yeah.
of September.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then more after that. It's pretty crazy.
And what do you
So
do
fun.
at these Comic-Cons? What draws you to them?
Basically, the fans. You know, it's really incredible to, you know, sort of be reinvigorated, if
Yeah.
that's a word, reignited with this sort of newfound love for the Turtles, because you've
Yeah.
got these fans who were, you know, 7 and 8 years old 30 years ago or 25 years ago,
Yeah.
Yeah.
who are now adults with their own kids,
Yeah.
and buying the box set in the Turtle van,
Yep.
you know, and watching the DVDs with their own kids, turning them on to the original series,
Yeah.
while they also dig the new series.
Yeah. Did you originally audition for Michelangelo, or did you audition for a different?
Or does somebody
Turtle?
just say, "Here, can you do this?"
Oh, you're standing here. Would you like to do
You're
this?
standing here. You're already here. Why
Because
don't
that's
you
the
do
way
it?
it always happens for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was doing Fraggle Rock at the time, and Stu Rosen was directing that, and was going to be casting and directing Turtles, and so he showed us this comic book, and we're all like, well, "That's a little weird, but okay." And so Robbie and I were doing Fraggle Rock at the time together, and he brought us in to audition, and I think I auditioned for all 4 Turtles, and when I got cast, they hadn't decided between me and Cam Clark who was going to be Leonardo and Michelangelo. And so they didn't decide till the very first recording, you know,
Yeah.
what it was going to
Yeah.
be. And
Where
I
did
just-
the voice come from? Was it a voice that you were familiar with, or you just saw the picture and you said, "This is who he is"? Or?
Well, I saw the picture, and they also had a description in there, and David Wise, the gent who, you know, wrote so many of the Turtles episodes, but wrote that first 5-part miniseries, he had a description in there for Sean Penn out of Fast Time at Ridgemont High.
Oh yes, of
Yeah,
course.
Spicoli. And I thought, oh, all right, I kind of know that, you know, sort of burn out a little bit. But,
Yeah.
And so that's essentially where that came from. And, you know, they give a description of the character, a picture, and then, you know, a couple
Right.
of sample lines.
Right.
And I just went for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Right on. Well,
As we
congratulations,
know you
man.
should do. Do not
Yep.
hold back.
Do not hold
Go.
back.
No, you got
Go
to just,
full
yeah.
throttle.
You got to
Yeah.
go for
Just-
it.
Yeah.
Speaking of auditions, do
We
you?
have one for you.
Yeah, exactly. We have one for you. No. Do you still audition a lot, or do you get mostly requested, or?
Well, you know, most of my career right now has sort of distilled down to promo work.
Right.
You know, I don't do. I mean, I audition for commercials and every so often get one. It's nothing like it was back in the '80s and '90s. Of course, the whole business has changed so much.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I want to ask you about that too. But in regards to auditioning, even with promos, do you find yourself auditioning for promos, or are you? Yeah.
I audition for everything. I'll audition for commercial. I'll audition for anything.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing that I'm not really crazy about doing is video games.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've done a few, and while I enjoyed them, it seems like the ones that I have been most drawn to, or have gotten, are the ones that involve a lot of screaming and swearing, frankly. And I'm just not, super into that. So
I'm with you on that.
Well, you can just do the rated T for teens.
Yeah,
no
right.
swearing there.
Or E
Gosh
for
darn
everybody.
it.
E for everybody.
Gosh darn it.
Hey,
Gosh
you guys,
darn it.
you just killed him with a
Pick
grenade.
up your dad burned gun.
Gee whiz, you weren't supposed to do it like that. No, Mom!
By gum, cut it out.
Yes. So the video games are something that I kind of sort of see.
We'll do a kids game. We'll
There
do
you
the
go.
Candyland video game.
Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Some of them are pretty like full on. When you get those sides, it's like
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, I've turned
you
down
blush.
auditions before because of that,
me
and
too.
and was bummed when the show came out and went on to become a huge hit, but then had to remember, is that something I really would have wanted to do for all those years?
Yep.
And
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know. I'm
And
with
so
you on
you
that.
just hit on this a second ago. How this business has obviously changed a lot through the years, man. So, in your opinion, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen? For the good or the worst.
Well, technologically, it's changed. I sort of look at the year 2000 as sort of being a demarcation line, where it seemed like, beyond that point, it's like styles changed, technology changed to the point where the internet was becoming, really huge and, in a way, sort of not only pervasive but kind of invasive, and technologically, how we started to audition. Things like Voice Bank came online. Used to be, I don't want to say back in the day, but back in the day, we used to go in to ad agencies and read for copywriters and producers. We used to actually go in and do spots at studios.
Yeah.
So we had this really enormous, wonderful, well, I can't say enormous, but I mean this big community of voice actors. That was not only the actors, but the agents, the people at the studios, the receptionists, the engineers, the studio owners. I mean, all these people. This was this great community. And it seemed to me that all that started to go away as we all started to do work out of our homes. We started to audition from home, started work from home, which in the beginning was great because it felt really super convenient and efficient.
Yeah.
Which it is, but it's also, at least to me, terribly, terribly isolating. And so that's been one of the biggest downsides for me of the way things have changed in the last 15 years. Is I don't see anybody anymore.
Yeah.
Is the isolation.
Yeah.
But you get to audition more, right? So your chances of maybe booking are greater than they used to be, or no?
Chuck, I don't know. I mean, I used to feel like when I first moved here in the mid-'80s and, for like sort of the next 15, 20 years, I really felt like this business was competable. Now, I don't want to be a downer here because I know that this is for folks who, are interested in VO and want to do VO.
Yeah, but we also don't like to lie to anybody, let them know what the deal is.
But competitively, it's a very different environment. And I can't say it's better or worse, it's just different. It used to be a much smaller talent pool. You pretty much had to be here or in New York or Chicago to work. And you kind of always knew who you were up against. So when you went in and read on copy, you sort of had in your mind, okay, I know what this is going to be like, and I know kind of where I need to steer this in order to
stand out.
Stand out and have a shot at winning this thing.
Right.
Now I feel like it's like playing the lottery.
It's like a freaking
I hate to say that, but because of technology, you got folks from anywhere in the country or the world who's got a little home studio, and who doesn't now? Why not? Auditioning and getting agents, and more power to them. I mean, I think it's wonderful that it's opened up this opportunity that we have for voiceover, because it seems like there are more opportunities now than ever
Definitely.
before.
Yeah.
But it's opened up to everybody too. So,
So do you primarily audition from home now? I mean, or what about your work? Is it all from home?
my work is all from
Wow,
home.
man.
With the exception of the few times that I will get called in to do an episode of an animated feature or not a feature so much, but like a direct to DVD thing.
Yeah.
Or an episode of a show. In those cases, they pretty much always like you to be there ensemble, which is just such a blessing now because you get to actually see people.
Yeah.
Other than that, everything I do is from home.
So
That's why he's barefoot.
yeah, that's why he's barefoot. That's
why he forgot how to wear shoes.
So much that whenever he puts shoes on, it's very, very uncomfortable.
You know those signs? No shirt, no shoes, no shirts. He's like, no, I forgot to put my shoes on.
Okay, where's my book of cool dudes? Here it is. Give me a pen. This guy definitely goes down on one of the coolest guys we've ever met.
Best.
Right?
The best.
That concludes part 1 with Townsend Coleman. We'll be back next week with part 2. Do not miss it.
And make sure to subscribe to our VO Buzz Weekly YouTube channel and find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest at VO Buzz Weekly. We love you guys. Thanks for watching. And just remember, you always have time for a little buzz.